Welcome to Ion Franchising, where you will learn the A to Z's of
Everyone, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Ion Franchising. I am your host, Lance Graulich. So today we're going to talk to a guy that has the Midas touch. Yes, I said it. He's got the Midas touch. 30 locations of Midas and in the last just few years. So welcome to the show, my new friend, Brian Beers.
Hey, Lance. Well, thanks for having me.
Brian, it's awesome for you to even be here, as busy as you are. Thank you for spending some time with me. And let's go way back and let's talk about how this all got started with the family and Midas.
Yeah, sure. So, so Midas specifically has been in our family's blood, you could say, since the 1960s. Like my dad's uncle was a franchisee up in Boston, had the 60s. I think might have started in the 50s. So like 10 years into it or whatever. I'm not exactly sure when he started, but started having success, started just buying up and opening new locations. And back then they say it was like taking a wheelbarrow to the cash register every night. And it was such a good business. And so my dad
and there were no credit cards, so you had to have a wheelbarrow for all that.
Yeah. The quick little jobs were just cash tickets too. There was no you paid royalties on those. And then, so my dad was 22 years old and like, just, I don't know, did a bunch of jobs and just looking for something new. And so his uncle's having all success, says, hey, maybe you should open up a Midas in Philadelphia. And so my dad and his dad, so my grandfather, who's kind of just coming off retirement as a teacher, decided to open up a location. And I think my dad's uncle, like back then you had to get to get into it. It was such a good business, right? So someone had to back you like to get into it. And
by the way, Brian, that was when it was called Midas Muffler, right?
Yep.
In the old days.
That's right. It's all they did. Like, it was just exhaust, and like exhaust systems rusted out every 3 years is what I'm told. And it was like, Midas's thing was a lifetime warranty. And so it created like loyalty for customers because they got to save money. And obviously it was a good business model.
Love it.
And it was totally vertically integrated. Midas manufactured the parts, distributed the parts. So like their cost of goods was like at cost. There was no middleman of people marking it up. So it was like, it was like a great business model. And so they helped finance it. I think my uncle loaned my dad and grandfather like 50% of the funds to get it started, and took a note and all this stuff. And so anyway, started one location and just started building it from scratch. And a couple of years after that, my dad's brother-in-law joined the business, and then together they had a second location, and then they bought a third and opened a fourth and a fifth and a sixth. And just through the years,
wow.
Just bought them and sold them, and went down to Atlantic City, opened one up, got it going, sold it for a bunch of money.
That could be dangerous, opening one near Atlantic City. Then you have an excuse to go gamble some of that cash. Right.
Well, they went to the shore a lot, so they'd like go to the shore on Friday, visit the stores, and then go down. So anyway, it was great. Like all through childhood, growing up, we had we had a good life, private schools, and
love it.
Paid for college, and just it was a great life that it had provided for our family. And so I graduated college 2010 and decide, what I want to do. I'd studied entrepreneurship and computer science, and I was into tech kind of thing. And so I decided, hey, let me like take a shot at the family business. My dad and uncle, like 08, 09, been rough, and they've been thinking about selling the stores, kind of retiring. I mean, at that point they'd been in it for, over 30, it was 35 years. And so, it was everything they needed at that point. And so I come in and I know nothing about the business. I'm just like a 22-year-old kid or whatever. And so I just started learning it. I started networking with other franchisees. I started like learning best practices, becoming part of these like mastermind groups. They weren't called that back then, but that's what it was. And we just started having success and like, so start building the sales. And then we kind of took me about 6 years, and then we went to acquisition mode, and we started just buying up locations, and 2 here, 1 here, 2 there. And then, over the last 18 months, we more than doubled from 12 locations to now 30 with a couple bigger swings.
12 locations to 30. I love it.
Yep.
So let me, I got one question from the distant past. So when your uncle and your dad were setting this up, did they exchange stories of why they picked Midas, why they picked a franchise? Did they have ideas of doing something on their own? I'm always curious about that origin.
I think it was just like, they saw success. I think it was my uncle, just like, it was a good business. I think they went up and visited him, and they just like, you know, it was a simple business model. I mean, employees, they said anybody who could pick up a torch and a hammer could be employed. Like there was a low barrier. Labor was techs were, you know, they were installers, they weren't technicians. It was just, you paid $4 an hour and then it was commission. So they earned obviously more if they produced, but like, it was a very profitable, very easy to run, simple business model. And so, you know, I think they were agnostic, like kind of like it's like my dad's not a car guy. He's not a mechanic. Like he's handy, like he's very handy and creative, but like, he's not under a hood of a car, by any means. And so it's just like, it was a good opportunity and someone else was having success. And I think, you know, the reason I like it now too, is that same thing where there's a proven model, there's a support system. Like, I think one of the biggest benefits is the community that a lot of people don't know about or talk about, but like, once you join a franchise, you are instantly a member of a community. And literally day one, you can call up another franchisee and ask them like almost anything. And they will tell you like, you know, sales and margins and challenges and, you know, what do you wish you knew? And like, so instantly you have help and support. And because for, you know, the franchisees, the bigger the brand grows, the more valuable our like locations become. So like, it's in my best interest to help as many other Midas franchisees as I can. Even this podcast, if someone wants to join Midas and they come to me and I help them join and, you know, they have success and help build the brand and help put more marketing dollars to the national fund. And like, it's this like flywheel effect. And so I think people they're suspicious of you if you're not a franchisee yet, because like you could be working for the competitor that could be Meineke or, you know, CarX or something. But like once you're in the club, people are more than willing to help.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. That's such a great point. And not a lot of my guests talk about the community. I mean, some do. But, you know, when you go through the process of selecting a franchise, myself as a franchise broker consultant, people don't realize they're not asking for your credit card on the first phone call. It's all about, are you even right for the system? It's a two-way street. You're checking them out. They're checking you out. You look at the franchise disclosure document, which has an item 19, which discloses sales and other information. And then you get to the validation stage where you have an opportunity before you're a franchisee to talk to existing franchisees to essentially validate that this is right for you. And by the way, I had a guy that jumped a step. It wasn't Midas. It was a different franchise. Wasn't automotive. He jumped a step and he called a local franchisee that a friend of a friend knew and started asking, you know, really intrusive questions, which are appropriate during validation. How much money do you make? Do you like it? Would you do it over again?
Yep.
And because my candidate, my client, was not formally introduced through the validation stage yet, franchisees for that brand have a password. And unless they know the password, they can't give the sensitive information.
I've done due diligence on other ones that I was looking to invest in. And yeah, I've had to say the password.
I love the password thing. But the collaboration and the community piece is what a lot of people do not know about, or they've forgotten about that. So you have so many people that have a vested interest in your success is my point.
Yeah. And a lot of people just aren't involved. Like they don't, like you can be as involved or as not as involved as you want. Right. And I'm like highly involved because I see the value of it, but like you can go to the local meetings, like in Midas, we have local, regional, quarterly meetings, right? There's national conferences that like some people never even attend to. There's like, you know, during COVID, like I personally started Zoom like group calls where I put it out there and corporate help market it or whatever, saying, hey, I'm going to interview some of the top candidates. So I interviewed some of the top performing franchisees, like a one-on-one webinar style. And we had 60 or 70 people like listening, hearing this guy's story and best practices.
Yes.
I've put together like, I don't know, like a group call where it's just like, we're going to get, it was about the same 60 or 70 people to talk for an hour on one thing. Like how do we drive gross profit, or how do we, you know, payroll stuff, or like hiring practices, or whatever the topic I picked that day was. So like that wasn't even Midas corporate putting on. That was like me choosing that, like, hey, I'm going to get a lot of value from learning. Plus it helps my like personal brand within a franchise, right? Because we want to grow, and you know, the more people that know, like, and trust you, the better opportunity you have to do these acquisitions. And so like I created some of it just because I wanted to. And so like, I don't know, if even someone's in a brand and they're like, oh, my people they don't do anything. Well, like go out and like just put it on yourself. Like you get a bunch of franchisees together for a call or grab breakfast once a month or whatever it is. Like you can make it happen.
I love it. No, that's all wonderful stuff. When you mentioned earlier how you dove in the business, when you're out of college, you started attending meetings, you mentioned it just now as well. What have you noticed from your dad and your uncle's stories from the past? What have you noticed has changed? Obviously, technology has changed the business a lot, but talk about some of the specifics and how Midas continues to sort of protect the brand and brand integrity and new revenue streams, perhaps, and talk a little bit about that.
So the business model's changed tremendously. It went from exhaust is 100% to exhaust is 5% of our business, right? And then oil change come on, and there's just, hey, we're now going to focus on oil changes and car count, and it's a loss leader to get service work. And now it's tires. So like Midas is owned by a tire company, and so we have very good prices on tires, but it's a completely different business model and process than selling brakes or service. Right. Even though you think they're parallel. And so over the years, they've been good to adapt to the times and kind of change just based off of, market research and consumer feedback and just, what do we need to do to kind of continue to drive forward and drive car count and drive sales. And a big part of that is, franchise feedback. And so like I'm a member of the FAC, or the Franchise Advisory Committee, it's called. So it's once a quarter or so we're getting together, and there's like, it's all hands on deck. We got almost all the leadership at corporate, and there's like almost all the successful franchisees, many of them multi-unit, but some also single unit and smaller unit to get a more of a wide, opinion of the different programs. And even through that, there's committees on, how we get to drive whatever the different things that are important, whether it's a marketing one, a technology one, I'm on one about new store expansion. So like, how do we make the FDD appealing? So like Midas, we've put together a whole bunch of like really good incentives for people that like, I've personally been a leader of and a thought leader into helping develop. And so every brand's different. Some brands it's all internal, and then other brands, at least like Midas, they want the support of the franchisees because that's where some of the best ideas come from. And so that's all part of the due diligence process, right? Like you're talking to other franchisees once you know the password and asking like, what kind of, communication is there? And do they take your like feedback and ideas, or is everything done in a black box and then it's just like pushed out, here it is? And,
so I'd imagine the majority of owners do not have any kind of automotive experience prior to jumping into Midas.
Yeah. I don't know what the percentages are. I mean, I'm not like an automotive guy. Right. By any means. You
have clean fingernails, let me say.
Yeah, they're pretty clean. But that's not my skill set. Like, I think the thing about owning any business, it's like it's what the skill set requires. Like my job is to hire like really good people who can identify talent, like at my level, right? But like the store manager's job is to be able to communicate with customers, like what is wrong with their car, communicate with the technicians to ensure whatever they recommend is going to solve the customer's problem, right? And it's the technician's job to then like actually fix the car and be the technical person and invest in tools and training and all the stuff. And so like, it's like this, like you can't be everything to everyone mentality where like each, in the business, in any business, whether it's franchise or not, like there's specific roles. And, as the owner, your job is to like hire really good people and ensure we're following the processes, whether those are. And so now that being said, I mean, I can interview a technician. I can tell you immediately if he knows what he's talking about or not. Like, even though I can't fix it, like, I mean, I know if he's bullshitting me or not, and if he knows what he's talking about. Right. So, but you learn that just by being in the stores and by, just being, a student of it. So,
right. No, I love it. And look, in franchising, the number one thing that people get skittish on, besides getting fearful, is owning a business even right for me? How do I know what franchise brand is right for me? It's amazing across all brands. It doesn't matter whether it's healthcare or automotive or, anything, a massage franchise, a salon franchise. The owners are not the technicians of those brands. I mean, it does happen that they are. I know an air conditioning brand. Be. Yeah, I know an air conditioning brand that there was an air conditioning guy that joined the air conditioning brand because he knew he'd have more bandwidth with marketing and support and follow-up. But your example is just so perfect. I mean, it's all about the training. It's all about the follow-up. It's all about the system, communication. And anybody can do almost any franchise. The question is, which franchise is right, for that individual. So, I mean, obviously, congrats on your success and the family's success. So what's next? How many more Midas shops are you going to open?
I don't know. We've got 5 more in our market that we would like, that are already in our existing footprint, that we could acquire with like 0 additional overhead to the company. So like all the money it makes, like just goes to the bottom line versus, when you're in a retail business, and this, like as there's like this stair step approach where you can kind of, build out a market. You have fixed expense to build a market, and then you can fill it up to a certain capacity. And then it's kind of like, if you go to the next level, you need then more district managers, more office support, more whatever. And so we're kind of at this point where we can fill in 5 more that our existing stores that fit in would be easy. So anyway, that's our like easy goal next year, is to get those. And then it's a question of, what do we want to do? Do we want to, it's either you continue to buy existing ones, which is the easiest, quickest path to cash.
The brand too. That's perfect.
Right? So, but then it's like, at this point, we've bought out almost all the ones that we can buy. Like the other players aren't selling either. And so then we have to go to a new market. So like, do we go to DC? Like we're in Philly, right? So do we go to DC? Do we go to Baltimore? Do we try to go up to like New York or Boston? Or do we say, hey, we're willing to get on a plane and then you can go anywhere in the country, right? And then, but there's another part of me that says, so one path is like, hey, we could have 60 stores and do whatever. We do about 36 million now. Like maybe we get to 75.
Only
million.
36 million. Oh,
yep. And so, yeah,
fabulous.
The other option says, hey, well, like our best stores do about 2 million and our worst stores do about 700,000. We average like whatever, 1.2 or whatever it is. There's this other model that says, hey, well, we get 35 stores. Well, what if we can get the 35 stores to all $2 million a piece, and we're doing 70 million out of our existing ones. Like we would quadruple what we're making out of these stores, because of the volume it drives. And so, you balance, what's the path? It's somewhat easier to have a larger number of average performance than, fewer exceptional performance. So I don't know, we got to figure out which path, or it's somewhat in parallel. But even that 2 million, like there's Midas shops out there, 8 bays, same size, doing 3 million, doing 4 million. There's one guy who's like driving hard to 5 million, who's the highest in the country. Awesome. And so even we think our cap's quote 2 million, but there's this example of other people doing it, who are doing much, much more on similar size square footage stores. Like they're not these monster locations either.
It's a great example, what you just brought up. It seems that in most franchise brands, if not all, you do have these guys or gals that are way out front with these really, truly exceptional stores. And it happens. And in some cases, it's the market. In some cases, it could be some special magic that they're doing within the system. But it's great because it gives everybody a goal to shoot for, that it is actually possible,
Yeah. In our business, and a lot of them, I think it's people and process. Like the locations, yes, a good location, whatever. But like we could literally, like we've bought in stores that are, doing, I don't know, it's doing 900,000 in December. And we buy in December. The next year we do 1.8 million. And like literally overnight we changed, but we had to totally restaff the store. We brought in our best manager from another store and put him there. He brought one of his best techs. We hired a couple good ones, but like same location, same customer count, actually increased customer count because better service, but like it was the people and following a consistent process. And so that's a lot of it. And the guys who are doing 3 million, like, or whatever, are just more consistent at it than we are. And so that's what we try to train on and talk about and figure out, which is our challenge at our numbers, which is, the more stores you get, the more diluted you get as well. And so you got to really have these good ways to do this training. Otherwise it just, it's just like this blanket effect that doesn't work.
You mentioned the committees earlier, like from the FAC and all that. I'm sure there's a subcommittee on unit economics and really studying
profitability. Yep.
Yeah. How do we how do we consistently get everybody to 2.5 million or whatever that number is? But it's great being part of that system. When you were talking about earlier how Midas has changed over the years, can you imagine somebody trying to create or, sort of rip off the Midas model today and being it all on their own, trying to figure out how to do it all?
Yeah, no, I don't know. For me, like I have no interest in an independent shop. People ask me all the time, like, but a lot of it's like it's speed to scale. Like I wouldn't be the size I was if it was beers, tire, and auto or whatever. Just maybe we have 2 locations or 3 or 4, but like you're not going to get the scale, the level of profitability to support. But then, yeah, the ideas of, like I said, that mastermind, the group stuff, like we're really big into consumer financing. So we have all these payment plans that somebody's great credit, we can get them a 6 months, no interest. Someone has like no credit, bad credit, we can get them programs for that get them payments they can afford. And so like I'm one of the leaders in the country on that. And so like I inspire others to say, hey, we got these really good programs that we can help make the jobs affordable. And but like, I don't know, if I was an independent business, like maybe I wouldn't even know about that kind of thing, or hey, what's possible. And I think a lot of that then opens your eyes. And for me, a cost of 5% is totally worth it.
I was just going to say one of the biggest things that I get all the time from people that don't know. They don't know. In most cases, they've never even owned a business. And they're like, well, I have to pay them 5% forever. It's like, well, yeah, they're supporting you. They're working constantly. They have an R&D team, research and development, figuring out what's the next revenue stream. So for example, as I toss this question to you, things like EVs, electric vehicles.
Yep.
There's always something
we're
new.
working on a EV playbook, which I have a whole other thoughts and theories around that. But yeah, what's that going to look like, in 10 or 15 years, because we're a long way out, to be honest. But like, what does the train look like to get there, and how do we incrementally grow it? And also it's the brand, like for us, the 5%, like part of it is too, for ours, it's a brand, right? It's this established brand that people know, they trust it. Like I've opened up a brand new location, and on day 1, we've got customers. On month 2 and 3, we're cash flowing, like to pay all the rent and all the payroll and the expenses. And then, hopefully cash flow positive after that. Like if I was a brand new location, like beers, tire, and auto that nobody knows, like, I don't know, like maybe I get a couple stragglers in there, but like the name instantly can grow. And then that additional cash flow is like all this money I wouldn't have had at an expense of 5%, like is, it's all still incremental growth. Like, yes, there's an expense, but it's all incremental growth that I didn't have before. So absolutely, that's my take on it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fantastic. So what are your other observations of the franchise world? I mean, look at the way today there's probably 4,500, 5,000 franchises in every niche. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And boy, automotive is still an incredibly hot one. I think food and beverage is still, restaurants are still the most popular, but automotive, boy, it's ever present. Every corner in America, it seems, has franchises doing automotive or restaurants or whatever. So what are your thoughts on all that?
On automotive specifically?
Yeah.
Well,
what's next besides EV? I mean, other revenue streams. I mean, you going to expand the car washes next with Midas?
Nah, they won't do that. I like glass personally, but like, I don't know. It's a whole nother business model, but like, I don't know. People know us for automotive, and we have, whatever, Midas is doing millions of vehicles, and a lot of them probably have broken windshields that are getting referred to Safelite or whoever. Glass doctor. Great
point. You're on the right committees, though.
I am. I'm pushing it, but like, and one of the guys came from Safelite, but then there's this whole other, well, like, if you don't seal the thing right and you get rain in there, now you've got this $10,000 insurance claim because of all the electronics, and so it's not just as easy as, we're just gonna throw some tires on a car. It's just it's a lot more technical and training, and but for me, like I view it as like, well, it's mobile, right? Safe Life is kind of mobile. And, with our geographical footprint, even if I had like 3 guys that were, highly trained and compensated in the vans and stuff, like we could cover all 30 stores with 3 people and capture that business. It's not like I need to train one guy like per location and then he quits and then we can't do, this revenue stream. So, I don't know. I'm interested in the concept. I'm pushing it. But
it's another vertical and another
so there's that.
idea.
There's EV. Tires is huge. Like tires are only 7% of our company's business, like national business, and it could be 30. Like there's each store could probably add a $500,000 a year in tires.
And inventory of tires, you have a minimal inventory and you just get them as you need them. Is
Yeah,
that
it's a bitch, to be honest. Like, because there's so many different sizes, they're always changing. Then there's different levels of entry level, mid price point, Cooper branded, Michelin branded, Yokohama, all this stuff. And so, you know, a lot of them, there's distribution warehouses like in each city, and so, you know, there's different concepts. But the big tire stores, the Firestones, the NTBs, the Discount Tires, I mean, they're stocking thousands of tires, 2,000 tires, which is, you know, at a cost of $100 a piece or whatever, $200,000 of inventory per location. And so a lot of my, you know, I don't want to invest that much in it. Maybe I'll put, you know, $30,000 into it or $20,000 into it, because you got to turn it. But then if you're not selling enough tires to turn it, it's like, where else could I put that cash to give me a better return? And anyhow, tires is like it's a whole animal in itself that we have yet to crack. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
but the future's there. Like that's you know, there's all these different options and revenue streams. It's not like we're nowhere near capacity.
I'm confident you'll crack it. I want to talk about staffing and labor. You know, we talked about people. So how does that? I mean, look, everybody's complaining they can't find people today. What's your sort of secret sauce? Give some tips to
I mean, we have not been able to find people for you know, 20 years. So the technician
finally
shortage,
someone that tells the truth, because everybody seems to think
it's
it
all
only
recent.
just happened now.
COVID and the government money and blah blah blah. Now, like, there's been a technician shortage since the day I started 12 years ago. So like nothing new to me. Like, and so, you know, we're constantly looking at, you know, really it comes down to the culture. Like, you know, once you hire somebody, because it's easy to hire somebody, like, how do you retain them, and how do you fill that spot so then in 2 weeks or 2 months, like, you're not looking for another guy? Because a lot of times it feels like it's the last one in is the first one out, and it's like we have our core team, and then it's like the other 25% is just this like revolving door, and that's what we're working to solve. And we do it, you know, through trying to create this culture of just a fun place that people want to work, and, you know, try to find people who align with core values, which are they're driven to win. Like, if everybody's driven, they all want to win. It's different than like one guy wants to win and the other people just want to be lazy.
Right.
You know, people that are positive to be around, that, like, you know, smile and they're not grumpy, and, like, you know, that there's accountability, or they say that they do the things they say they're going to do. And so we focus on that. You know, we focus on, you know, the benefits of being a franchise is kind of, you get this best of both worlds, where you get like local ownership with owners like my brother and I who care about our employees, and you get the benefit of having a national brand in this backing. And so we have the best of both worlds. If someone's coming from like a Firestone or whatever, a corporate competitor, they come to us, like, we have the name brand, we've got the investment in technology and the like the major roads and all this stuff. But then we also have then local family ownership, and, you know, decisions aren't made in a vacuum. And, like, you know, if we need to invest in equipment, like, we do it, right? Or if someone, you know, we need to help somebody out, like, we do it. We just reduced our hours. Like, we used to close at 6:00 at all stores. We're now closing at 5:00 across the board.
And when do you open?
7:30.
7:30.
Almost all of them. It used to be 7:30 to 6. Now it's 7:30 to 5. And, like, even that, like, was, you know, other franchisees have done it and said, you know, that by letting their employee, you know, letting everybody get an hour early, and so that they can get home to have dinner with their family. Like, at the end of the day, they were then happier. Like, we had less scheduled than like you work at Mavis or whatever. It's like you're working until 9:00 at night every Thursday, or, you know, whatever these rotating hours.
Yeah.
And, you know, that the employees are then, you know, at work-life balance, they're happier. And at the end of the day, we still get the same amount of work done. And so now we have less payroll, and we're open less hours, but we're still, like, getting the same amount of sales. Thus our profitability goes up. That's the theory.
And happier employees. I love it.
Yeah. We just did it 2 weeks ago, or this is the first week, to be honest with you. So I'll let you know how it goes, but so far it was good. Yesterday was a good day, and, you know, we shaved an hour off. So
awesome. So Brian, you gave us some amazing information. So final thoughts, words of wisdom to those listening that are looking at business ownership. They're not sure what's right for them. Where do you start? I mean, besides reaching out to franchise broker. So, but like myself and maybe you for some additional advice, of course, but give us some final thoughts or words of wisdom on that topic.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people think that franchising is like buying yourself a job. And for some people it is like that's what they want, right? They want they want to work a certain number of hours. They want a certain amount of limited responsibilities, and it's the perfect fit for them, right? There's other people that want to build something that replaces their income and they can earn a couple $100,000 a year. And there's other people
building
like me,
equity for yourself,
right? Who want to build an enterprise. And we're obviously doing pretty well, but like it can be as small or as big as you want it to be. And it's just, it's finding the right brand that fits. Like there's some brands, it's not a part-time gig, right? I don't think Midas is a part-time gig, like to be at the level that I'm at least. Like There are people who do it part-time. They have W-2 jobs and their stores are not very profitable and they will sell it to me one day. Like that's their out, but that's okay. That's the life. That's fine for them. Right. There's no judgment there. So yeah, I think it can be anything you want it to be. And I think the best thing to do is you just learn about all the different options that are out there with an open mind. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously, if people want to connect with me, I'm on Twitter a lot at Brian Beers, and I'm also on LinkedIn, Brian Beers, and I have my own podcast where I interview entrepreneurs. We talk about investing. I'm actually rolling out a second series that you're going to be a part of called Franchise Fridays. So it'll be a second episode a week where I talk to franchisees, franchisors, talk about 15 whatever minute solo episode on something about how do we find a brand, how do you run due diligence, how do you have those calls with franchisees. So I think just checking out different podcasts, learning, and then just start the process. So,
well, Brian, this has been fantastic. Thank you for spending some time with me.
Yep.
And I know I will definitely talk to you probably later this afternoon.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much for listening today. Please like, follow, and subscribe. This is Lance Graulich. Until next time.